Tonight, Rowan Ramsey and Mark Colton secure another term in Parliament as the coalition is surprisingly returned to power, and police continue to investigate a tragic fatal crash at Tumby Bay.
With the latest from around the region, your nightly news with John Hunt begins now.
Good evening. In a remarkable result, the coalition has been returned to power in a victory that defied predictions. We start in Kadina, where Liberal member Rowan Ramsey is also celebrating victory. After a nervous wait last election, he easily retained his seat this time around.
As May 18 ticked over and regional South Australians headed to the ballots, candidates vying for Grey were doing the groundwork for a tough election battle.
Anything's possible.
And every vote counts, I guess?
And every vote counts.
Win, lose or draw, it's how we run the race, and it's been a really good experience.
The party faithful also hoping weeks of campaigning at polling stations wouldn't be in vain.
We expect it to be a close battle. You never know, of course.
But as the day turned to night and the nervous number crunching began, a clear winner started to emerge. And by 10 p.m, Rowan Ramsey had claimed 50% of first preference votes.
I think tonight we retain Grey with an increased majority.
Centre Alliance and Labor were poised to pose a threat to the seat, which experienced a big swing against the Liberals at the 2016 election. But for Centre Alliance, this year was a different story. The incumbent federal member under no illusions for the reason behind the party's snub at the ballots.
Well, I put it down to the fact that Nick Xenophon's got there, quite frankly. No reflection on the candidate or anything like that. I just think things have changed.
Ramsey excited for his next 3 years, promising to deliver to Grey residents under a Scott Morrison-led coalition government.
I know they know I work hard at this job and I do my very best for every one of them.
Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
It was a bad night for Labor Party candidate Karen Bolton. She not only comfortably lost a seat, but watched on in horror in Whyalla as the coalition pulled off an upset win.
It was always going to be a tough competition going up against the Liberals, who've held on to the seat of Grey for over 25 years. Labor candidate Karen Bolton says despite the loss, she's happy with a 0.85% swing to her party.
We've actually clawed back some of the margin our way, and I think that's a really positive achievement for us.
Whyalla is known for being a safe win for the Labor Party, but cracks might be forming with the town's east preferencing the Liberals by a slim 31 votes. Karen says it's a concerning sign.
We need to get a much clearer message out to people. Unfortunately, I think there were a lot of scare tactics in this campaign.
Supporters watching on as the results came in. What first looked like an easy win for the Labor Party became a nightmare as they were consigned to another 3 years in opposition. The mood in the party quickly changing as the outcome became clear.
The result is obviously for Labor a disappointing result. We'll have to seriously look at what went wrong, as all parties do when they lose.
Mr Hughes says he hopes Rowan Ramsey will support the community and listen to the issues being raised, saying the Liberals need to take better control over the climate crisis.
And all countries have got to do their bit, and to date the coalition federally have been absolutely appalling.
Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
And the Centre Alliance's Andrea Broadfoot didn't fare any better. It was a trying night for Miss Broadfoot and her supporters in Port Pirie, as it became clear early on her vote had plummeted.
After dreaming of an upset win, reality kicked in for Andrea Broadfoot's Saturday night. Fans and volunteers of her election party were left shocked by the results.
I'm disappointed, obviously. We've worked really hard to represent the electorate and the issues that we saw coming up, which haven't been addressed.
There was a sombre atmosphere at Port Pirie's Safavi Cafe. Earmarked to secure a significant amount of votes, Miss Broadfoot instead saw 20% swing against her. Centre Alliance securing just 5.5% of the preference votes, behind Labor and even below One Nation. Miss Broadfoot's hairline loss in the 2016 election posed her to be a serious contender in Grey. In the end, the redistribution of the electorate and the retirement of Nick Xenophon from politics both proved to push the odds out of her favour.
And unfortunately for us, Centre Alliance, as a new fledgling party without Nick Xenophon at the helm, has suffered as a result of that.
Despite the crushing defeat, she wasn't bitter, praising volunteers for their efforts.
Amazing amount of incredible support right across the electorate. People that have given us weeks of their time and energy to support this campaign.
And with it all now over, she's looking for a next challenge.
I might get my memoir published now. I wasn't sure whether to publish before or after an election, but now might be the absolute perfect time.
Dominic Beaton, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Moving over to the New South Wales electorate of Parkes, where it was a commanding win for Nationals MP Mark Colton. Mr Colton has now won the seat 5 times in a row.
A resounding win, a 5-time member for Parkes.
This is a wonderful result.
Despite strong Labor support in the far west of New South Wales, Nationals candidate Mark Colton was always going to have stronger polling in the north of the Parkes electorate.
Considering the difficult times we're having at the moment, I was very pleased with that result. So probably picked up a couple of % across the entire electorate.
With 80% counted, Mr Colton has just over 50% of the first preference votes. Labor's Jack Ayub polled around 24%, a 4% swing away from the ALP compared to the last election. Independent Will Landers claimed 7%, as did Liberal Democrats Daniel Jones. United Australia Party candidate Petrus Vandersteen managed to get 6%. Labor won every booth in the Silver City as well as in Menindee and Wilcannia. Alma and Central showing major support for the ALP. In the two-party preferred, Mr Colton is currently seeing a 1% swing in his favour with about 66% of votes. Even though Mr Colton did not win a Broken Hill booth, he did see a positive swing of votes in his name.
You don't count votes when you're doing your job. You represent everyone in the electorate. That's your job once you get elected. And hope that people then, when the time comes for election, that they will reward you with their support.
Patrick Royenke, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come tonight, the rest of the day's news, including a tragic fatal at Tumby Bay, and Port Augusta families come together. Hello again. Major Crash are still investigating an accident at Tumby Bay that claimed the life of a teenager. Another was airlifted to the Royal Adelaide Hospital and is still recovering. Nathan Ruttiger has more.
Police are currently investigating the horror crash that took the life of an 18-year-old and left his mate in hospital. The teenagers were travelling along Bratton Road near the Tumby Bay silos at around 4:30 on Saturday morning when the car flipped while going around the corner.
The collision itself is being investigated by a major crash investigation section, and that it will take some time for them to bring everything together. However, I think speed does appear to be a factor in that collision.
Joe Finland died at the scene. His mate and driver of the Holden sedan, Leroy Bernier, was airlifted to the Royal Adelaide Hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Joe only celebrating his birthday a few weeks ago.
Young people in the prime of their lives, probably their entire life ahead of them, and it's cut short like this. It's a tragedy for everyone concerned, including, I might add, the emergency services workers who have to deal with the aftermath.
The sickening crash was the third major road accident in the Eyre Peninsula within 24 hours and is the 46th road fatality in South Australia this year, compared to 29 the same time last year.
We've had enough road carnage in this state already this year. Enough is enough. Drive to the conditions. Drive within your limitations and drive to the speed limits.
Police will be hosting a road safety forum next week in Port Lincoln and Cummins. An online forum will also be available Monday night for people to join and ask questions electronically.
Port Lincoln police are investigating a robbery after a man entered the gaming room of the Great Northern Hotel, allegedly threatening staff with a knife. The suspect stealing cash and purses before fleeing. He's believed to have a dark complexion, wearing a tracksuit and a black mask over his face. Police are encouraging anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers. A Broken Hill police car has had its rear windscreen smashed as it drove away from a domestic disturbance on Saturday night. It comes just days after officers were spat on while making an arrest.
shattered glass on a Saturday night call-out. Broken Hill police were responding to a violent domestic assault at around 10:30 on Credon Street. By the time they arrived at the location, the offender had left and officers began speaking to an injured victim.
While we were there, a crowd of people have come down from up the road who were at a party. They were intoxicated, they were quite volatile, aggressive.
With the hostility growing against the officers, they decided to take the victim to hospital themselves rather than wait for an ambulance. By then, 3 squad cars were at the scene. As they were leaving, the rear windscreen of this police vehicle was smashed by an unknown thrown object.
No one was in the back seat of this car, and it was very lucky that she wasn't in the back seat of the car, because if she or anyone else had have been, they could have been showered in glass and maybe hit with something, depending on what was thrown.
It's not the only recent incident of violence against police. A Mildura man was charged last week after he allegedly spat at officers, arresting him for trespassing. Pepper spray had to be used to control him. Patrick Reinke, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still on Broken Hill police matters, and officers have charged a 25-year-old man from Lennox Head with drug trafficking. Police say the man was driving from Byron Bay to Perth when he was pulled over on Friday. A search of the vehicle found a small amount of the hallucinogenic drug, commonly known as magic mushrooms. The man was charged with a commercial supply of illegal drugs. Young and old have celebrated the end of National Families Week in Port Augusta, featuring over 40 groups at Central Oval. Organisers are hopeful it'll connect locals with support services.
An event proving Port Augusta's possibilities.
We've put together the Connected Communities Expo for everyone.
As an end to National Families Week and in conjunction with the Souths Footy Club's Family Fun Day, a support day with over 40 groups was held.
It's great to see seniors all the way down to little babies in prams out. It's about community being family.
Whether it's carving wood, carving up on the guitar, or the finer crafts, there's plenty for people to see and do.
Just the awareness of artefact making and that anyone can have a go. Yeah, it can be a girl, boy, it can be 5, it can be 100.
You're the one with the staff, she can heal. A lot of what we do is battle games. We fight, it's kind of like paintball but with swords.
Organisers hoping to connect locals with a wide variety of services.
If you're reasonably new to Port Augusta, you wouldn't necessarily know that there are this many groups around.
And they have a clear message for anyone struggling and in need of some community support.
Introduce themselves to a group, make that one little connection. Hopefully they'll feel comfortable enough to go and join.
Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us after the break. We'll have all the footy scores from around the region, and Alex Saints will have the latest weather details. Welcome back. The Lower Eyre Peninsula has had its first thunderstorm for the year, with more than 130,000 lightning strikes being recorded. The storm bringing around 30 millimetres of rain, causing flooding across Port Lincoln. Tasman Terrace turning into a lake, with water quickly rising throughout the streets. Homes and businesses experiencing blackouts Saturday night. The local church lighting candles for this service. The power was later restored Sunday afternoon. Turning to footy now, and there was a major upset in Broken Hill. South's 2-year winning streak is over, with North defeating them in a boil-over. Dominic Beaton has the weekend wrap.
Forget about the federal election. This weekend's biggest upset came at Broken Hill's Jubilee Oval, where the Bulldogs have ended the Roos' 32-game winning streak. Firstly, we start in SGL at Memorial Oval on Saturday, where Solomon Town and West clashed. A dominant first half kept the Cats comfortably ahead, but West kept fighting, finding their momentum and closing the gap on the scoreboard, making for a nail-biting end to the match. Sollies held on, wrapping it up with a hard-fought 8-point victory, 97-88. In other SGL matches, South Augusta were too strong for Prop Risdon. Cruising to a 68-point victory, Gary Warren slotting an impressive 6 goals for the winner. While Central came from behind at 3/4 time to defeat last place Port by 18 points. In the WFL, and West is sitting comfortably on top of the ladder after a comfortable win against Waroona Bay. Central's brilliant start to the season continued with a massive win over Rapina, and North Whyalla extended South's miserable start to the season on Sunday. The Pies handed down the Demons a whopping 152-point thumping, with South anchored to the bottom of the ladder. In Port Lincoln, Wayback were too good for South. Boston's sorry start to the season held goalless in its 68-point loss to Marble Range. And Tasman wound up round 4 with a tight win against Mallee Park. Across the border in Broken Hill and North have caused a huge upset against South, putting an end to the Roos' 32 straight win record, knocking the wind out of the sails of the league's champions with their 40-point victory. While in the other match, West proved too strong, with a massive 87-point win against bottom of the ladder's Central. That's a wrap for this round of football from across the regions. I'll be back tomorrow with the rest of sport.
Thanks, Dom. And time to take a look at what's happening in the weather. Here's Alex Sykes.
Good evening. After a wet weekend in some parts of our region, it was returned to sunny skies today. Temperatures ranged in the mid-20s with Port Augusta and Whyalla reaching 22 degrees, Port Lincoln 20, Broken Hill reached a warm 25, Port Pirie was 21 and a max of 19 degrees in Adelaide. Looking at the satellite, and there's a cold front bringing some showers and thunderstorms in the south. Skies are clearing in the west thanks to a high pressure system. Looking at the waters for tomorrow, north to northwesterly winds between 10 to 15 knots, seas at 1 metre, and the sun will rise at 7:08 tomorrow morning and sunset just before 5:25. Partly cloudy and warm across the region tomorrow. Port Augusta set for a top of 25 degrees, Whyalla 24, Port Lincoln and Coffin Bay 21, Woodna and Quorn 25, Broken Hill cloudy and also 25, Port Pirie 24, Clare 21, Cleve 24, and cloudy skies in Adelaide with a top of 21. Looking ahead to the next 4 days, Port Lincoln partly cloudy through to Thursday 21, Tuesday 20, Wednesday 21, Thursday and 23 for Friday. Similar conditions in Cleve reaching 23 by Friday, and partly cloudy for Woodna over the next few days, 25 on Thursday. Whyalla keeping in the mid-20s with a bit of cloud reaching 24 by Friday. Warm conditions in Port Augusta, 26 for Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. A little bit cooler in Kadina, 21 tomorrow, and Wednesday, 20 Thursday. Some partial cloud in Port Pirie for the next 4 days, 24 for Tuesday, 23 and sunny for Wednesday, 24 for Thursday and 23 for Friday. A bit cooler in Clare with tops of 21 Tuesday, 22 on Wednesday and 21 Thursday. And warm in Broken Hill through until Friday, reaching tops of 25 and 26 throughout the week. And that's all for tonight's weather. I'll have some updates later, but for now, John, back to you.
Thanks for that, Alex. And that's your local news this Monday evening. Thanks so much for your company. I'll be back with some updates later in the evening, but until then, enjoy your evening here on 7. From the team, it's good night.